everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to the GOAT,
Welcome.
a show about owning your shit and on your way to greatness. Last week, we had an amazing show where we brought on one of my favorite athletes of all times, James Bird, J2. Shout out to him, where we talked a lot about what does it take to really be great as an athlete, And again, that may take failure, and allowing yourself the freedom to fail is the only way you're really truly going to find success, especially if you're learning each lesson. So excited about this week. We're talking to a great coach. Jeff, why don't you introduce our guest?
Well, we got Coach Chris Lawson, and I was going to memorize everything, but he's got such a list of accomplishments that I feel like I have to read this, D. So, I mean, it kind of scares me. I looked at you, Chris, when we met, and I was expecting this like 90-year-old guy, and I'm like, oh my God, you are young, and there's no way you've accomplished all this. So for 25 years, Coach Chris Lawson ensured that Rockhurst soccer team was always in contention for a state championship. From 1994 to 2018, Coach Lawson led the Hawklets to a record of 553 and 151 wins and 25 ties, including 21 Final Four appearances. Rockhurst won 7 of those state titles. He won Missouri State Coach of the Year 6 times and Regional Coach of the Year 4 times. Coach Lawson ended his Rockhurst career with 12 consecutive Final Four qualifications. To me, that's amazing.
GOAT, baby.
That is like GOAT material. There's nobody that does that kind of thing at one place. It just doesn't happen. So, Coach, congratulations, and we're so excited.
Welcome to the show.
on our show. And tell us a little bit about you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm one of the luckiest and most blessed men in America. Rockhurst gave me, not only 25 great years as a coach, but I've been there 27 years as a teacher. I've built a lot of relationships with young men. We're an all-boys Jesuit high school, about 1,000 high school students, just all boys. But I've had great coaches. So I'm really enjoying my time now as a dad. My son Owen plays football at K-State, and seeing him do his thing. So I've been blessed to I don't have any regrets. I had great coaches, great experience. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And right
welcome
now
to the show.
You're doing some coaching right now, some assistant coaching or some helping with goalies. Is that right?
Yes. Park Hill South, Jared Byrne and Chris Farmer, 2 good friends of mine. Chris Farmer was a teammate of mine in college when I played at Park University. They invited me last year to work with their goalkeepers in the spring, if my schedule allowed, and it didn't conflict with anything with K-State football. So it worked out well. I enjoy working with the goalkeepers, and Park Hill South girls have a great team, great chemistry. It's been a lot of fun working with them, and game's been so good to me that I owe it to give back when I can.
Yes.
I'm just excited about being able to be a part of that, and I've had a lot of great assistants, so it's kind of cool to be a varsity assistant, and I'm honored.
You're not. Yeah, right. So, Coach, what I'm amazed at, and what I really personally want to find out, because I've been in the sports world, saw lots of athletes, lots of coaches, greatness, but to have a team that is consecutively that good, continually building a program, you've got the buy-in, the mindset, and how you create that. I'm just intrigued about, it's like Phil Jackson. You're a Phil Jackson in my mind, 11 rings. It's like what you did in school, people going through, and you're continuing to create this winning mentality. That's a big question for me personally. How do you do that as a coach?
Well, I appreciate your kind remarks, but like anybody else would tell you, it takes so many individuals I appreciate hearing your comment earlier about your guest from last week, and it's come from failing at times, um, and it's part of our Jesuit mission at Rockhurst to always review and reflect on how we can make something better. And there was nobody that ever pushed me more than I pushed myself. So if we lost, I was always committed. Our staff was committed. But I got to give credit to a lot of people. My mom first, God rest her soul. My mom, when I was applying for the job at Rockhurst, had told me, because I didn't think at the time I was as qualified. I'd only been an assistant coach 3 years. And it's a line that I share with my players for 25 years. And that was, my mom told me when I told her I was thinking about applying, she said, she's the only person who called me by my full name. She said, Christopher, focus on being so successful at what you want to do that you have no time to think about the alternative. And Park Hill was great to me at the time. It was my first place where I was hired. I was teaching, and I was a JV coach and varsity assistant. But I grasped what my mom was saying, and that was if you decide and you get the opportunity and they hire you, be focused on doing everything you can to grow as a person, as a coach. Surround yourself with good coaches. Listen and work with the players. Give them your very, very best. Convince the administration that you have to play a really good schedule so that you can kind of gauge yourself periodically and build that culture one brick at a time, one practice at a time. And I'm grateful and indebted to all the alumni at Rockhurst. Rockhurst Soccer was great before I got there in 1994. Whether it's fair or not, our culture is such that they measure you by championships. Rockhurst doesn't necessarily measure you by championships. Rockhurst measures you by, are you helping these young men grow as young men to become champions for life? There are a lot of teams that didn't win championships, so I hope I was just successful with them, and in their endeavors, preparing them for life beyond.
Coach Wooden and so many of the coaches believe that there's so much more than just building the player. It's building the person to have these beliefs and faiths and ideals and how to go after their goals and dreams. And I truly believe that coaches, they say teachers, parents, all these people are big in your life, but I don't know, I might be different, but I look back at my coaches and think, wow, they were game changers in my life.
Absolutely.
They knew me, my vulnerable, my everything.
Coach, I want to ask you on that piece of the culture, like, what is the established culture that you built each year? Did it change?
Well,
Was it consistent?
Yeah, it did change because your personnel changed, players changed. There's culture shifts in your community from time to time. To two important points, I was really fortunate to have great coaches in high school and in college. Rich Painter, my high school coach at Sacred Heart High School, my basketball coach, Tom Genowine, my junior college coach, Mark Wheeler, my college coach, Ben Papula, Rick Ben, who's kind of the dean of coaching around here, just retired from UMKC. I learned from a lot of great coaches. I was around a lot of good people. I try to be a sponge and soak it up. But, I learned early on, when you go to Rockhurst, there's a standard and expectation. And again, they didn't put it on me or place it on me. I placed it on myself. Doug Bruce was the athletic director in '94 who hired me and gave me that opportunity. And I vowed that I would never have him regret that. And I appreciated the community's trust in me. But I focused at times early on more, and more isn't always better. It's about quality. I was surrounded by great coaches too. Coach Severino at Rockhurst, Mark Nussbaum, guys like Doug Bruce, people who know how to win and do it the right way. It really helped. Mark Bubalo was there for a while. He went over to Blue Springs South. So I would have to tell you that I learned early on, just be a champion of the process. And if you trust the process, the results take care of themselves. When you lose, you go back you critique it, and you're committed to asking yourself, what could I have done differently as a coach? I always owned losses. I shared in any success because we had great players. We had the most talented players around, and getting them to buy in.
Right.
It takes that first team to win the state championship in '98, and then it makes it a little easier. It wasn't easy,
Yeah. It's kind of like now you're at the point. It's like, what advice could you give coaches? Because you evidently learned the right mixture.
Right.
Along the way, you learned from this coach and this coach and this coach that you were able to apply, and it actually worked out in a real healthy way. Most coaches I know struggle with that. And what could you tell them? How could you give them some guidance to working with these GOAT teams or creating the GOAT teams?
Well, the first thing would be to stay humble and know that you're building a program, so you have to have trusted, respected coaches who also want to grow. Rockhurst, our founder, St. Ignatius, always has this philosophy of to give and not to count the cost. It's part of our mission. So, I had coaches at the freshman level, sophomore, JV, varsity assistants. So I had great coaches, and you have to surround yourself with people who compliment you. Mike Wickenhauser, who's our academic vice principal, was one of my longtime assistants. I had a lot of great assistants who played at Rockhurst. That was probably one of the proudest, pinnacles is to have, I'd say, close to 20 former players come back and coach with you. You got to keep it fresh.
Like the program, they believed it.
Different.
They changed their life enough. That's great.
I'm not going to kid you. I was pretty driven. I'm still very driven. I'm sure there were some assistants who would joke with the young men that God loved them, and Coach Lawson was trying at the time. I loved all my players, but we honored our alumni. We honored our tradition, and we wanted the young men who were proud to be a part of that to appreciate what the people who came before them did to make that tradition. Like I said, Rockhurst soccer was good before I got there in '94. I just wanted to build on it. Ron Geldof did a great job. But you have to have a good administration, too. They have to support you. We had a great budget. We traveled. We played the best of the best. I love the fact that we weren't in a conference because you're only as good as your conference opponents. But, I was a goalkeeper in college, so I had to grow and learn a lot as a head coach. But I would tell you that if you're a young coach, you need coaches around you who are as good or better. You can't be insecure and hire people who are yes sir people. And I always appreciated Doug Bruce. He was our AD who hired me and never made me hire people in the building. If they were qualified, we interviewed them. But I always appreciated that, and you don't find that as much today. You need people who know the mission as well as the program.
So it sounds like you've read the book From Good to Great, which is put the right people on, pick the right people and put them on the bus where they need to be. And that's what creates the team and the atmosphere.
It does. And I grew along, over a period of time. I know we started doing yoga in 2004, and there were a lot of people initially who would say, when do you have time for yoga? But as a coach, I had some players, like most high school coaches, who put a lot of stress on themselves. Yes. They are trying to balance being great at what they do. They're trying to balance their high school experience. They've got a lot on their mind. They're not sure where they're going to college. And it's my job to put them in an environment where they can, be at their optimal best. And I would tell you that any of my players from 04, it was after this, 05 to pretty much 2018. Anybody who did yoga, they loved it. It was 1 hour a week. Therese Hogarty was our yoga instructor. She was phenomenal, and she really helped the boys. Not only preventative
coach.
What's
you
that?
Do know Phil Jackson.
Well, but it's funny because A lot of times coaches, they know the sport, they know the
Right.
tactics, but you also hear coaches at times in that culture early on, they'd say, well, he chokes. And
Yeah.
I would never use that terminology. My approach would be, well, what can I do to help this player,
Yeah.
be calm at that moment, collect his
Yeah.
breath. Therese did a great job. Our players did it once a week, and they were in the now, as she said. And it was awesome because that's our job, is to help players recognize it wasn't X's and O's. It was about when that ball comes across the 6-yard box, if you missed it once before, move on, focus
Right.
on now, and don't let pregame anxiety get the better of you. So I and our staff, had a responsibility to help our players become as complete, not only in sports, but in life and
Oh,
through formation.
you know what, Coach Chris? I've made my lifetime, and I don't
Yes.
know if you know anything about me, but I've spent my lifetime helping people deal with pregame anxiety because I struggled with it so bad as an athlete. I was a wrestler for Iowa, and I would get so anxious and so nervous before competition, and it's like I it made me not want to participate in the sport. And to have a coach that understands that and is willing to go
Mm-hmm.
there with them and talk to them about that and say, yeah, this is part of it. Let's talk about it instead of you shouldn't be feeling that. You shouldn't be.
Right.
It's like help them deal with it. You give them a tool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
And
again, we have to be open to growth. And one of our hallmarks in a Jesuit school is, part of our grad is to be a young man who's willing to, you may not agree with everyone's philosophy, but you're open to their ideas.
mm-hmm.
You're open
Right.
to growth mindset. And that was probably one of the best. It wasn't even soccer specific.
Yeah.
It was just helping young men handle that moment. And when you
Right.
work in a college prep environment where kids are, high strung, they're worried about where they're going to college,
Yeah.
you want them to focus and be ready. You have to give them the tools and resources so they can be in the
Right.
moment and not let the venue, not let the moment become too big for them.
It sounds like you've had a lot of experience with athletes in the real world that I deal with on a daily basis, but you've dealt with it in the real world. I work with a lot of athletes that struggle with performance anxiety and all that, but you work with athletes and so what you're able to bring to the table, and this is a question that I'm really interested in too, is you have worked with, and I'm just taking a shot at this, some goats, some really good athletes in your career. To have that good of teams.
Phenomenal. Yeah, I'm blessed. Phenomenal players.
Right,
Committed.
exactly. But some things that I'm interested, it's called the GOAT, and part of what we want to bring to the table is how can young kids become a GOAT? Become the best they can be. And basically you've seen the work ethics or the mindsets or the parents' contributions
Habits and yeah.
or all the different things that go into these special kids that end up playing better. And it's like, I would just like to hear what's different about these kids. You've seen them.
Well, first and foremost, we always took it from the context of a great player makes other players, just like any human being, you make other people around you better. And so we always sold that, a good could create for themselves, could create for others, could defend. And we were fortunate, mathematically, having coached 2,400 players over my career. We only had five that went to MLS, but
Right.
So we always told kids, you're going to, like the NCAA, we're going to have more kids go on to become professionals in other areas, be it business or medicine or law, education.
Yeah.
But, William John stands out as one of the best. William was a student of the game. His dad, Emilio, gives back to soccer in Kansas City. He played for the Comets. Indoor soccer helped a lot way back in the 80s. A lot of those guys who retired stayed here in Kansas City and coach club level. Commitment, no doubt, being open to failure times when you make a mistake, learn from it, grow from it. But William watched the game. William was probably one of those players who he played 2 or 3 plays ahead. The ball be in the air, and before he even touched his foot, he knew he was going to knock it and move behind the man.
See the play.
But he was committed to that, and he made a lot of sacrifices. I'm sure he gave up some personal vacation time, but he's still playing in Europe. He's building on his professional career now. Seth Sinovic, one of the hardest working players we had in our program. But as much as I respect Seth and we're proud of Seth, I don't think anybody would have told you in high school Seth was going to be in the MLS playing for Sporting KC. And, it wouldn't have been he wasn't a player who stood out that way. He was a great player. But he persevered, and he's a great story. When he went to Creighton, he was a forward for us. But give his parents credit. He bought in. A lot of kids that leave your program when they're one of the best forwards around, it's hard. But if you want to play at the next level, you can either fight it and play the position you want to play, or buy it and do what the coaches ask. And the ones who are able to adjust and adapt, they find success. And Seth's had a long-standing career. Went on to Creighton. Great story. Nobody won to offer a scholarship. And here he is as a MLS Cup champion. I had Ryan Rabel. Ryan Rabel played for the Legends here in town. Andy Barney does a great job developing individual skills on players with their abilities. He was a free agent with the Wizards. Jason Colt was our first player in '98. One of the best forwards. Got the first game-winning goal for us in '98. He went on the SLU. They put him at right back, and he gets drafted by Colorado Rapids.
What do all these players have in common?
That's my question.
What is the thread, that common thread that says these are memories for me? Yeah, they stand out.
Yeah. I would say they came from very supportive families who didn't drive them. Players drove themselves, but parents were very supportive. The players were very focused. Alex Sweeten was our last kid to get drafted by Philadelphia. Great player, helped us win 2 state championships, 07, 08. Great family. Steve and Laura, they had Eric as well. And they had a daughter who played. They just let their kids get out there, and they provided the opportunity. They made sacrifices so they could get good coaching in club and go to a school like Rockhurst. But those guys were dialed in. They didn't have anything else distracting them when they were there. And
so that's such a great lead-in, because I want to go with that. Then you said one of the big things that allowed these kids to be goats is a supportive family.
Absolutely.
This is big for us because we work with a lot of families, and we are trying to get them what is a supportive, I've worked with a lot of elite athletes, and it's with those kids, the parents ask questions like, am I pushing them too hard? Should I talk to the coach? Should I? All these questions that there's no real rule book. It's they say they want to be good, but they're not putting into practice, and all these different things. And it's when you say supportive parent, what is that ideal GOAT parent?
Well, I think it's a parent who, listens to their child when they say, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, I'm interested in trying this, and you expose them to it. And if they take to it and they're driving the bus, let them drive the bus. If you find that you're pushing it, you're dragging them out in the backyard, then it's the parent driving it. And just enjoy it. Focus on, are you getting better? What are you gaining from this? Look at the club's mission. What's the mission? Are they developing the whole person? Are they just worried about getting them to the professional field? Because those are just potholes. That you're waiting to have kids trip up in, and we don't want that. But I think, my own son, I talk about Owen from time to time with people. He would come to Rockhurst, as would my son Mel, and people just in a kind way would say, I bet you can't wait to play for your dad one day. And I always told him, as soon as we passed, when he was a young kid, I love you no matter what.
Yeah.
My love for you has nothing to do with whether you play for me. It'd be awesome to coach you one day if that's what you want to do, and I'll support you. But these are your days. And
Yes.
there's a lot of people out there who, if their kid said, "Hey, Dad, I want to play soccer," and the dad coached football or coached another sport, he may or may not give them that, that lead in. And so,
Yes.
and I'm really proud of my boys. They played basketball, they played football and baseball, and they're doing their thing. And I'm really, really proud of them for doing that. You stay out of their way. Once you see they have that passion, you just stay out of their way. Don't mess it up.
And I love that. And so I work with a lot of these kids, a lot with elite athletes that, they don't go to school part of the days because they play tennis.
Training. Yes.
I work with all over the country, different athletes that are kind of obsessed, or their parents are obsessed or whatever with them playing. And it's like, you are so right if you support your child to be great, but I think it's their decision. And so many parents really struggle with that, I think.
I think a lot of parents struggle with that, Jeff, especially when you start getting to the higher level of the ability of the athlete, because you're being fed a lot of information from this person. There's families pulling you in this direction. There's a lot of lack of information in the realm of being a parent of a sports player, let alone an elite level athlete. That guidance is not really there. So on the soon, it's going to be out there in everyone's hands, though. We're developing a series called Parenting and Athlete Training Series, where we get into a lot of those components you're talking about, Coach, as far as how do you release your child, let them be the star, and you be kind of like an agent. You're helping them make the right deals, but they're the one that has to perform, and you're not holding them accountable to any standard except for the standard they want for themselves. So it's a tough thing for parents to do, especially to take the hat off of dad and mom, because you love your baby so much and you want them to do so well. You don't want anything to be in their way. So yeah, that's actually some information that I appreciate you sharing that, because everything you said was like boom, 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 dead on, dead on.
Well, I think it's important, when the game's over, doesn't matter if you play college sports or if you're an executive with a company. I would always, I wasn't perfect by any means, but I would always tell my sons, I love watching you compete. I enjoyed watching you compete. What do you think? You did well, and what do you think you want to get better at? And I think that's a really objective way. Let them lead, because and what do what was great about the game? Was it your buddy scoring a goal? Sometimes from the eyes of a parent, it's not the same as it is from the eyes of a player. And I would tell parents, if the kid's okay, then don't make a big to do about it. Especially whether it's youth football or whatever it might be. I talked to my kid one time. I was out of town. We were playing in the Jesuit Classic in Washington D.C. and I'd heard that one of his coaches got on him a little bit, and I said, "Oh, tell me about the game." He said, "Oh, Dad, I created a fumble, and one of my teammates fell on it." And he never mentioned anything about the coach getting on him. So, if it's not a problem for him, it wasn't a problem for me. And parents should look out for his experience, making sure that they're being treated respectfully and that their health and wellness is looked out for. But sometimes parents have kid gloves and they want their kids treated differently or protected. But don't make the experience. I've coached a long time. I've had players that I've kept as role players, and I could write a book about it. And some of them said, "Coach, I know my role. I know my teammates appreciate and respect me, but I can't deal with a 25-minute conversation with my dad at night." And I would tell them, this culture's a little different, but I always appreciated Doug Bruce. Doug Bruce said, "You give those young men 150%. Be honest with them. Be positive, constructive. Tell them what they're doing well. Tell them what they can get better. Don't ever try and convince parents, because you have to work with the 15 to 18-year-olds and tell them, here's what you do well. Here's how you can help our team." And, that was so important, because if you try and please everybody, you're going to please no one.
No one.
Bingo. And it's like, who are you working for? Are you working for the kids or the parents?
Well,
When
and
you're,
we respect, we have a great parent community at
yeah,
Rockhurst, and we have a lot of involvement. It's incredible, but that doesn't mean that every parent knows how to handle that situation when their child's a role player in sports. But at the
right,
varsity level,
Right.
it's not a right at the varsity level. It's a privilege. You've earned that, and every kid's not going to get into the university they want. They're not going to get the job they always want. So it's helping them, adapt and find a way to find success and find God in those other experiences when it's not something they were expecting.
you know,
Well
um,
said.
Coach, after talking to you, and I've read some articles, and they mentioned integrity. And so one thing that I want to say after meeting you is every response that you have given, everything that you have delivered, I can tell comes from a point of very high integrity. So I got a little goat tip of the week that I'm going to give today, and it's
Boom.
boom, having integrity for yourself. It's like, so many, what we're talking about with Coach here is having integrity and being genuine and being real and owning your stuff, basically. And so in the great big picture, it's like, but are we committed to doing that to ourselves? Like if I make a
Good
commitment to
question.
myself and I say, I'm going to go out and exercise every day, do I hold myself to that level of commitment that I would do for other people? And that's when you get to feel good about yourself, is when you do start having integrity for yourself. And it's like, I count, I'm worthy, and I deserve to treat this as I would treat other people. I make kind of a commitment to me and to my higher power at that point. So, GOAT tip of the week is to have integrity with other people, but learn to have it for yourself too. Your commitment to you is very important. D, what do you
Now,
got?
Jeff, you know that we have to own our stuff right now. Me and
Right.
Jeff have had a competition to lose weight for the
Yeah.
last 60 days. We
Mhm.
did well, and then we did not do well, and then he got sick, so he cheated a little bit on the scale, but it's okay.
I lost 8
But
pounds in a week.
we are now putting it as
I
a
should have joined you
public
guys.
service announcement. We will start weighing in on Thursdays on the show to make sure everyone understands that we're serious at this and we are
Yes.
owning it. And our integrity is going to show for the world that we are going to own it and we're going to live it as a reality.
Well, on 2 points on integrity, I have to give props to the United Soccer Coach Association. It used to be the NSA. They're headquartered here in Kansas City. Uh, their offices down there at Union Station, and Jeff Van Duzen and their organization do an incredible job at providing resources for youth, high school, college, and professional coaches. I grew a lot from my time as a member there. It's what's great about America and capitalism. Soccer hasn't been, throughout our lifetime, the predominant sport as far as success in this country. It's been a most popular sport, but when it comes to what the culture is measured by, World Cups and everything, um,
Right.
we're willing to pay and bring in some of the top clinicians throughout the world to the convention every year. And I would encourage any coach who wants to grow to consider looking into United Soccer Coach Association. It's been an incredible experience. They recognize players, they recognize coaches, they recognize referees. It's just a great organization, but they really they're there to educate, and that's how you grow. And the other thing I'd say is,
Absolutely.
if you're a coach, surround yourself with coaches who don't all have the same personality. If you have two
Right.
coaches who are hammers, if that's who
Right.
you are, being true to yourself on the integrity side, hire somebody who can come in and push buttons in a respectful and appropriate way.
Right.
Because you can't have two coaches who are always beating players down, or always being
Right.
sarcastic. If that's a personality trait, it's not a healthy one. And I had some incredible assistants over my career. Mike Wickenhauser being one of the top ones, but he had a command of the English language. He was an English teacher. He's our academic vice principal, but he would share the same mission and the same message with our players, but just with a different tone. And Coach Severino had a great coaching staff with football rockers. And, while Coach Severino would probably be a little more subtle about it, put his arm around you and whisper something to you, I might, let you know in a way that wasn't the same, but I was in a sense. Would put their arm around you and say, hey, you know what? Here's what I want you to do. And I always made sure after the game or with the text that they all knew I was in the same canoe with them. I was paddling the same direction. And I took pride in helping every senior class try to get to the Final Four, try to have a chance to contend. The 4 times we didn't go, my stomach, hurt. And there's kind of a little joke in the program. No player in my time was ever to mention the word cold, because cold was the feeling we had in our stomach when we lost in November. You might beat us in October, November, or September, October, but November, the kids at Rockhurst were committed to growing and learning, as were the coaches. You had a great administration with support, and we normally didn't make the same mistake twice. So we were really proud of that. But I give a lot of credit to all of our coaches. We had great players. Our alumni support is incredible. So, yeah, you can't do it yourself. You need to have good coaches who are good players up in the program, scouting,
Right.
Yep.
You know what, Chris? I so much admire your experience and wisdom at this point in your life, because I'm sure this understanding of how valuable everybody else is on the team takes a lot of understanding, a lot of growth on your part, and a lot of realizing, wow, it does take different personalities and it takes different people to challenge in different ways. And your job as a coach was to create that right mix and that attitude, the atmosphere. You're not allowed to say cold. All these things that you were able to do is creating that atmosphere of champions.
Yes.
It's like we think positive. We plan on being in the championship. I so much admire that in a coach. So I want to thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you
so much here, Chris. And I have learned a lot, and I look forward to having you on the show again, because what you bring to the table here has been wonderful. It's like parents can learn,
a lot of great wisdom,
and coaches can learn.
Well, we all have a responsibility to pay it forward, whether it's soccer or any sport. It's like, I was on a retreat last week, and one of the themes was, God's love is a gift, and you can hoard it, keep it, or you can share it. It's the same in coaching. When somebody has blessed you and made your life better and enriched you, like I said, I had so many great coaches. It was easy to see why I wanted to go into teaching and coaching. We owe it to forward and pass that on to other people. But I'm grateful to you all. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm grateful to Rockhurst High School. I still teach. I'm the department chair there, and I love Park Hill South, and I love being a dad who gets to go watch his own kid after helping other kids play college soccer. I'm really just tickled to be able to watch my own son play State.
Congratulations on that.
Absolutely.
I think the journey you've ridden and been on through the sports world is just amazing. It makes me smile that you were a goalie and you went all the way through and you coached, and now you're able to watch your kids play. That's so cool. I love it.
Better than that. Nothing better than that, Very
Thanks
blessed.
again for being on the show.
Yes,
I so much
appreciate you so much, Coach.
Appreciate everybody that watched and is going to watch, and we look forward to meeting again next week at the same time, 7:30 Thursday.
Bad time, same bad channel.
And come back to the GOAT and own your shit.
Well, you guys are doing great work, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Coach. Let everyone